7. When all the initiates stand on solid ground, Lauren and 4 lead us down a narrow tunnel. The walls are made of stone and the ceiling slopes, so I feel like I'm descending deep into the heart of the earth. The tunnel is lit at long intervals, so in the dark space between each dim lamp, I fear I am lost until a shoulder bumps mine. In the circles of light, I'm safe again. The erudite boy in front of me stops abruptly, and I smack into him, hitting my nose on his shoulder. I stumble back and rub my nose as I recover my senses. The whole crowd has stopped, and our 3 leaders stand in front of us, arms folded. This is where we divide. Lauren says, the Dauntless-born initiates will come with me. I assume you don't need to take a tour of the place. She smiles and beckons towards the Dauntless-born initiates. They break away from the group and dissolve into the shadows. I watch the heel pass out of light and look at those of us who are left. Most of the initiates were from Dauntless, so only 9 people remain. Of those, I'm the only abnegation transfer, and there are no amnesty transfers. The rest of erudite are surprisingly candor. It must require bravery. To be honest, all of the time, I wouldn't know. 4 addresses us next. Most of the time I work in the control room, but for the next few weeks I'm your instructor, he says. My name is 4. Christine asks, 4? Like the number? Yeah, says 4. Is there a problem? No. Good. We're about to go to the pit, which you will someday learn to love. Christina snickers. The pit? Clever name. 4 walks up to Christina and leans his face close to hers. His eyes narrow, and for a second he just stares at her. What's your name? He asks quietly. Christina, she squeaks. Well, Christina, I wanted to put up with if I wanted to put up with Candor smart mouths, I would have joined their faction. He hisses. The first lesson you will learn from me is to keep your mouth shut. Got it? She nods. 4 starts towards the shadow at the end of the tunnel. The crowd of initiates move in silence. What a jerk, she mumbles. I guess he doesn't like to be laughed at, I reply. I would probably be wise to be careful around 4, I realise. He seemed placid to me on the platform, but something about the stillness makes me wary. 4 pushes a set of double doors open, and we walk into a place called the Pit. Oh, whispers Christina, I get it. Pit is the best word for it. It is an underground cavern, so huge I can't see the other end of it from where I stand. At the bottom, uneven rock walls rise several stories above my head. Built into the stone walls are places for food, clothing, supplies, leisure activities. Narrow paths and steps carved from rock connect them. There are no barriers to keep people from falling over the side. A slant of orange light stretches across one of the rock walls, forming the roof of the pit. Panes of glass, and above them a building that lets in sunlight. It must have looked like just another city building when we passed it on the train. But lanterns dangle at random intervals above the stone paths, similar to ones that lit the chosen room. They grow brighter as sunlight dies. People are everywhere, all dressed in black, all shouting and talking, expressive, gesturing. I don't see any elderly people in the crowd. Are there any old Dauntless? Do they not last that long, or are they just sent away when they can't jump off moving trains anymore? A group of children run down a narrow path with a railing so fast my heart pounds, and I want to scream at them to slow down before they get hurt. A memory of the orderly abnegation streets appears in my mind, a line of people on the right passing a line of people on the left. Small smiles and inclined heads and silence. My stomach squeezes. But there is something wonderful about dauntless chaos. If you follow me, says 4, I'll show you the chasm. He waves us forward. 4's appearance seems tame from the front by dauntless standards, but when he turns around, I see a tattoo peeking out from the collar of his t-shirt. He leads us right to the side of the pit, which is conspicuously dark. I squint and see the floor. I stand on now edges at an iron barrier. As we approach the railing, I hear a roar. Water, fast-moving water, crashing against rocks. I look over the side. The floor drops off at a sharp angle, and several stories below us is a river. Gushing water strikes the wall beneath me and sprays upward to my left. The water is calmer, but to my right it is white, battling with rock. The chasm reminds us that there is a fire line between bravery and idiocy. 4 shouts, "A daredevil, jump off this ledge, will end your life. It has happened before and it will happen again. You've been warned." "This is incredible," says Christina as we all move away from the railing. "Incredible is the word," I say, nodding. 4 leads the group of the initiates across the pit towards a gaping hole in the wall. The room beyond it is well lit enough that I can see where we're going. A dining hall full of people and clattering silverware. We walk in. The Dauntless inside stand. They applaud. They stamp their feet, they shout. The noise surrounds me and fills me. Christina smiles, and a second later, so do I. We look for empty seats. Christina and I discover a mostly empty table at the side of the room, and I find myself sitting between her and 4. In the centre of the table is a platter of food. I don't recognise circular pieces of meat wedged between round bread slices. I pinch one between my fingers, unsure of what to make of it. 4 nudges me with his elbow. "It's beef," he says. "Put this on it." He passes me a small bowl of red sauce. "You've never had a hamburger before?" says Christina, her eyes wide. "No," I say. "Is that what it's called?" "Stiffs eat plain food," 4 says, nodding at Christina. "Why?" she asks. I shrug. "Extravagance is considered self-indulgent and unnecessary." She smirks. "No wonder you left." "Yeah," I say, rolling my eyes. It was just because of the food." The corner of 4's mouth twitches. The doors to the cafeteria are open and a hush falls over the room. I look over my shoulder and a man walks in. And it is quite enough that I hear his footsteps. His face is pierced in so many places I lose count. And his hair is long, dark and greasy. But that's what makes him look so menacing. It's the coldness of his eyes as they sweep across the room. "Who's that?" Christina. "His name is Eric," says 4. "He's a Dauntless leader." "Seriously, but he's so young." 4 gives her a grave look. Age doesn't matter here. I can tell she's about to ask what I want to ask. Then what does matter? Eric's eyes stop scanning the room and he starts towards the table. He starts towards our table and drops in the seat next to 4. He offers no greeting, so neither do we. "Well, aren't you going to introduce me?" he asks, nodding to Christina and me. 4 says, "This is Tris and Christina." "Ooh, a stiff," says Eric, smirking at me. His smile pulls at piercings on his lips, making the holes they occupy wider, and I wince. "We'll see how long you last." I mean to say something to assure him that I will last, maybe, but my words fail me. I don't understand why, but I don't want Eric to look at me any longer than he already has. I don't want him to look at me ever again. He taps his fingers against the table. His knuckles are scabbed over, right where they would split if he punched something way too hard. "What you been doing lately, 4? he asks. 4 lifts a shoulder. "Nothing really," he says. "Are they friends?" My eyes flick between Eric and 4. Everything Eric did, sitting here asking about 4, suggests that they are, but the way 4 sits tense as pulled wire suggests that there's something else. Rivals, maybe? But how can that be if Eric is a leader and 4 is not? "Max tells me he keeps trying to meet with you and you don't show up," Eric says. "He's requested that I find out what's going on with you." 4 looks at Eric for a few seconds, saying, "Tell him that I'm satisfied with the position that I currently hold." So he wants to give you a job. The rings in Eric's eyebrows catch the light. Maybe Eric perceives Four as a potential threat to his position. My father says that those who want power and get it live in terror of losing it. That's why we have to give power to those who do not want it. So it would seem, Four says. Are you interested? I haven't been interested for 2 years. Well, says Eric, let's hope he gets the point then. He clasps Eric on the shoulder a little too hard and gets up. When he walks away, I slouch immediately. I've not realised I was so tense. Are you two friends? I say, unable to contain my curiosity. We're in the same initiate class, he says. He transferred from erudite. All thoughts of being careful around Four leave me. Were you a transfer too? I thought I would only have trouble with the candor asking too many questions, he says coldly. Now I've got stiffs too. It must be because you're so approachable, I say flatly. You know, like a bed of nails. He stares at me and I don't look away. He isn't a dog, but the same rules apply. Looking away is submissive. Looking him in the eye is a challenge. It's my choice. Heat rushes into my cheeks. What will happen when the tension breaks? But he just says, careful, Tris. My stomach drops like I just swallowed a stone. A Dauntless member at another table calls out Four's name, and I turn to Christina. She raises an eyebrow. What? I ask. I'm developing a theory. And it is? She picks up a hamburger, grins, and says that you have a death wish. After dinner, Four disappears without a word. Eric leads us down a series of hallways without telling us where we're going. I don't know why a Dauntless leader would be responsible for a group of initiates, but maybe it is just for tonight. At the end of each hallway is a blue lamp, but between them it's dark. And I have to be careful not to stumble over uneven ground. Christina walks beside me in silence. No one told us to be quiet, but no one speaks. Eric stops in front of a wooden door and folds his arms. We gather around him. For those of you who don't know, my name is Eric, he says, and I'm one of 5 leaders of the Dauntless. We take the initiation process very seriously here, so I volunteered to oversee some of your training. The thought makes me nauseous. The idea that a Dauntless leader will oversee our initiation is bad enough, but the fact that it's Eric makes it seem even worse. Some ground rules, he says. You have to be in the training room by 8 o'clock every day. Training takes place every day from 8 till 6, with a break for lunch. You're free to do whatever you like after 6. You will also get some time off between each stage of initiation. The phrase, do whatever you like, sticks in my mind. At home, I could never do what I wanted. Not even for an evening. I had to think of other people's needs first. I don't know what I'd like to do. You're only permitted to leave the compound when accompanied by a Dauntless, Eric adds. Behind this door is the room where you'll be sleeping for the next few weeks. You'll notice that there are 10 beds and only 9 of you. We anticipated that a higher proportion of you would make it this far. But we started with 12, protests Christina. I close my eyes and wait for a reprimand. She needs to learn to stay quiet. There is always at least one transfer who doesn't make it to the compound, says Eric, picking at his cuticles. He shrugs. Anyway, in the first stage of initiation, we keep transfer and Dauntless-born initiates separate. But that doesn't mean you are evaluated separately. At the end of initiation, your rankings will be determined in comparison with the Dauntless-born initiates. And they are better than you already, so I expect... Rankings? Asked the mousy-haired erudite girl to my right. Why are we ranked? Eric smiles, and in the blue light his smiles looked wicked, like it was cut into his face with a knife. Your ranking serves 2 purposes, he says. The first is that it determines the order in which you will select a job after initiation. There are only a few desirable positions available. My stomach tightens. I know by looking at his smile, like I knew the second I entered the aptitude test, that something bad is about to happen. The second purpose, he says, is that only the top 10 initiates are made members. Pain stabs into my stomach. We all stand still like statues. And then Christina says, "What?" "There are 11 Dauntless born and 9 of you," Eric continues. 4 initiates will be cut at the end of stage 1. The remainder will be cut after the final test. This means that even if we make it through each stage of initiation, 6 initiates will be members. I see Christina look at me from the corner of my eye, but I can't look back at her. My eyes are fixed on Eric, and I will not move. My odds are the smallest initiate, as the abnegation transfer are not good. "What do we do if we cut?" Peter says. "You leave the Dauntless compound," says Eric indifferently, "and live factionless." The mousy-haired girl clamps her hand over her mouth and stifles a sob. I remember the factionless man with the grey teeth, snatching the bag of apples from my hand, his dull staring eyes, but instead of crying like the erudite girl, I feel colder and harder. I will be a member, I will. "But that's not fair," the broad-shouldered candle girl, Molly, says. Even though she sounds angry, she looks terrified. "If we'd have known..." "Are you saying that if you'd have known before the choosing ceremony, you wouldn't have chosen Dauntless?" Eric snaps. "Because if that's the case, you should get out now. If you are really one of us, it won't matter to you that you might fail. And if it does, you're a coward." Eric pushes the door to the dormitory open. "You chose us," he says. "Now we have chosen you." I lie in bed and listen to 9 people breathing. I've never slept in the same room as a boy before, but here I have no option unless I want to sleep in the hallway. Everyone else changed into the clothes the Dauntless provided for us, but I sleep in my abnegation clothes, which still smell like soap and fresh air, just like home. I used to have my own room. I could see the front lawn from my window and beyond it, the foggy skyline. I'm used to sleeping in silence. Heat swells behind my eyes as I think of home, and when I blink, a tear slips out. I cover my mouth to stifle a sob. I can't cry, not here. I have to calm down. It might be all right here. I can look at my reflection whenever I want. I can befriend Christina, and I can cut my hair short and let other people clean up their own messes. My hands shake and the tears come faster now, blurring my vision. It doesn't matter that next time I see my parents on visiting day, that they will barely recognise me, if they come at all. It doesn't matter that I ache at even a split-second memory of their faces, even Caleb's, despite how much his secrets have hurt me. I match my inhales to the inhales of the other initiates and my exhales to their exhales. It doesn't matter. A strangled sound interrupts the breathing, followed by a heavy sob. Bed springs squeal, and as a large body turns, a pillow muffles the sobs, but not enough. They come from the bunk next to mine. They belong to the candle boy, Al, the largest and the broadest of the initiates. He is the last person I expected to break down. His feet are just inches from my head. I should comfort him. I should want to comfort him. Because I was raised that way. Instead, I feel disgust. Someone who looks so strong shouldn't act so weak. Why can't he just keep his crying quiet like the rest of us? I swallow hard. If my mother knew what I was thinking, I knew what look she would give me. The corners of her mouth turned down, her eyebrows set low over her eyes, not scowling, almost tired. I drag the heel of my hand over my cheeks. Al sobs again. I almost feel the grate in my own throat. He's just inches away from me. I should touch him. No. I put my hand down and roll onto my side, facing the wall. No one has to know that I want to help him. I can keep that secret buried. My eyes shut and I feel the pull of sleep, but every time I come close, I hear Al again. Maybe my problem isn't that I can't go home. I will miss my mother and father and Caleb and evening firelight and the clack of my mother's knitting needles. But that is not the only reason for this hollow feeling in my stomach. My problem might be that even if I did go home, I wouldn't belong there, among people who give without thinking and care without trying. The thought makes me grit my teeth. I gather the pillow around my ears to block out Al's crying and fall asleep with a circle of moisture pressed to my cheek.